What is theater? What is drama? What is the relationship between theater and the holy, the divine? Dramatic texts, unlike most poems or novels, may be regarded as incomplete works of art which find their fulfillment only when the words are performed. And something similar to this transformation of text to the lived dynamic existence can only be found at the very heart of the Christian message. Namely, in the biblical pronouncement, the Word became flesh, suggesting that in the central act of divine self-revelation, Word became manifest to the senses. In other words, Jesus, as the Word made flesh, shapes our faith not as distant text, but by his performance, his engagement with the world, which, as per Shakespeare, is likened to a stage. Theatrically speaking, the Word made flesh can be likened to the dynamism evoked by a living person who animates the written word to share the essence of a particular story with a community of observers, an audience. For Christians, Jesus, as the incarnate Word, shares through word and action unbelievably good news, words of life that resonate within the heart and soul of all who choose to listen and believe. Theologically speaking, a drama is a tribute to the animating soul of God, who is the source and summit of all art, all beauty, all goodness, all mercy, and all justice. Two prominent theologians have explored in great depth the correspondence between faith and theater. Let's examine what they, along with so many others, have speculated about how what we do here and now defines the essence and shape of the eschatological performance which is yet to come. The renowned Protestant theologian Karl Barth once described the universe created by God as Theatrum Gloria Dei, envisioning the created cosmos as the theater of the great acts of God in grace and salvation. In this case, the notion of theater becomes an analogy by which to understand human history in relationship to its author, especially in the role played by Jesus, God incarnate. The Swiss Catholic theologian Hans Urs von Balthasar explored the relationship between theology and theater in his 5-volume opus Theodrama, where drama is explored as a paradigm to understand the theological task of the Christian faith. His project used drama as an analog for describing God's incarnate action in the world, moving theology from the realm of speculation to the realm of action and interaction. The Judgment is thus a play which uses the artistic process of theater to examine a unique instance of human and divine interaction, one which reveals the illimitable mercy of God's grace. And through this shared experience and the relationship created between one person and God, we come to the Christian understanding of what it means to be truly human. The Judgment begins with a simple yet ultimately profound question: what happens when you die? We know what happens to the body, but what happens to your spirit, your soul? The Judgment is a drama that tells a story about life after death and the surprising revelation that what we believe may be quite different from what God has to say about judgment. The play begins with an empty stage, set in shadows, barely discernible. As the lights slowly go up, we see a large divided cage begin to slowly descend and come to rest in the center of the stage floor. The lights then slowly go down until the stage is in complete darkness. There is a pause. Then suddenly, we see the stage awash with a very bright light, almost blinding. We see two figures inside the divided cage. One is standing and is dressed totally in white, while the other figure, dressed totally in black, lies on the floor, writhing and moaning, crying out in pain and confusion and fear. The figure in white attempts to calm the figure in black, but to no avail. All it wants to do is to escape from its cell, and so it rants and pummels and shakes in prison, all the while calling for someone to release it. The figure in white tries to inform the figure in black that it can be released, and that only it has the power and ability to do so. The figure in black doesn't believe the one in white, especially after it informs the figure in black that they are one and the same person, the body and soul of one individual. Angry and thoroughly confused and upset by the soul's assertions, the figure in black, whom we now know as the body, attacks the soul by pounding itself against the bars, causing large, bloody welts to appear on its arms, and simultaneously on the same parts of the body of the soul. Horrified at the results of its actions, the body sinks slowly to the floor, saddened and in deep shame. Thus ends Act 1. Act 2 begins with the body sitting far from the soul, still suffering from the pain, both physical and emotional, that it caused to itself and to the soul. As they converse, we learn that the body is also suffering from something else, the consequences of the action that brought the body and soul to where they are imprisoned, and yet free. Free to come to terms with those consequences and to receive an incredible gift from God, the gift of redemption. In the dialogue between the body and the soul, we learn more about what motivated the body to commit a terrible mistake, a mistake which came about as a result of separation from God, the very God that now comes to right a wrong. But the body is still not convinced. For this reason of its imprisonment and of God's continued love, until the soul performs a miracle that convinces the body beyond a doubt of the reality, power, and goodness of God's love. Act 3 begins with the body coming to terms with its sin, the reason for its imprisonment. It now realizes what it needs to do to complete God's perfect will for itself and for the world. God explains to the body and the soul that what we think we see and experience and interpret is in reality only a dim vision of the true reality that is God's vision and plan. And that when we go astray and try to impose our will and our vision and our prejudices upon the world, God intervenes in God's way and in God's time to bring about God's reign on earth as in heaven. God informs the body and the soul that we are truly created in the image and likeness of God, but that we, as Paul avers, see through a glass darkly. We fail to see the true image of the world as the image and likeness of God. Instead, due to our fallen nature, we see with worldly eyes and thus miss seeing the true beauty, majesty, and perfection with which the world was carefully and beautifully made. Is this a tragedy? Or is it a blessing? Or is it a sign of boundless possibilities? Because God is with us always, there are no limits to what we can do for the honor and glory of God.
But I tell you, there are some times in life where you fall down and you feel like you don't have the strength to get back up. Because I tell you, I'm down here, face down, and I have no arms, no legs. It should be impossible for me to get back up, but it's not. You see, I will try 100 times to get up, and if I fail 100 times, if I fail and I give up, do you think that I'm ever going to get up? No. But if I fail, I try again and again and again. For as long as I try, there's always that chance of getting up. Does that make sense? And it's not the end until you've given up. And just the fact that you're here should persuade you that you have another chance to get back up.
Sometimes God allows us to glance at the true image of the creation so that we can work to help others experience God's will, His plan, and His love. Realizing this, the body recognizes that it has been given a great privilege, a great boon. It has been allowed to know its true purpose in life and allowed to return to life on earth. Now strengthened and empowered by the true spirit of love, which dwells in those who love God with all their heart and all their soul and all their might, and love the other as they love themselves.